When my life started over 7 years ago because I was fired from my dream job, I only had one thing. And it wasn't a huge savings account either. I was actually going into debt and living off credit cards for a while. It was a podcast, and I used all the skills and network I gained from building it and turned it into a podcast production and growth powerhouse. In the last 7 years, we've helped our clients gain millions of views and made their offers oversubscribed as a result. And today I'll be sharing the 5 most important pieces and putting the puzzle together for you in this video. These hold are the strategies and tactics that you need to know to quickly start and get oversubscribed for your coaching and consulting offers or your digital products or services. Starting with this first video, which is your 2025 game plan to go from pre-launch to start enrolling high-ticket clients on autopilot. These are the steps I've seen work and put into practice for my clients over and over again for these past 7 years. So why a podcast in the first place? Now, a podcast is a relationship builder. So unlike Facebook ads that are mostly transactional, you put $1 in, get $3 out, things like that, a podcast is meant to build a relationship. So you may know as a coach or consultant that people tend to not want to build a transactional relationship. They need to know the people they want to work with. They want to like the people. They want to trust the people that they want to work with. And so a podcast is a way to build that trust. So you say that you need about 7 hours of time with a person for a prospect to become a customer. And so having your podcast in that middle of your marketing mix to really build a relationship over time is going to be effective in doing that. Now, also, unlike social media, where you have reels that are 60 seconds long, people don't get a chance to really get to know you. They may be able to pick up attention and go viral with those clips, but unless they're able to convert that attention into interest, into action, into a relationship, and into a sale, just picking out those views is not going to do anything for you. Look at all the stories that you heard of people who have millions of followers, but don't make a single dollar from that. Building a podcast allows you to convert your attention into interest, warm someone up from cold to warm, and then influence them into buying from you. Now, what I'm talking about specifically is building a niche podcast. Think about something like one of our clients has a podcast called Get Pregnant Naturally. Now, someone's not listening to her podcast a pastime on a Sunday. They actually have an intent to get pregnant naturally. And so they're listening to her with an intent to do something. And if she has an offer to sell them, which she does, she's going to pick up sales because they are actively searching for a solution when they stumble upon her podcast. Podcast listeners have a high intelligence, they have a high net worth, and if they're listening to your niche podcast, they have a high intent to do something, to buy, to learn more, to learn all that they can about the problem that they have and a solution to solve it. And your podcast will come in at the right time and at the right place. All right. So now you know about why start a podcast. Let's talk about the steps now to build a podcast that's going to generate for you multiple 6 figures. No, actually, my mind was open to this whole concept because a few years ago, I worked with a client who was a coach who had a podcast, was making multiple 6 figures a year. She had about 10,000 downloads a month, which is not a big number by any means, but she was able to accomplish this massive feat of her podcast earning multiple 6 figures a year because she had a course that she sold twice a year. She'd make a call to action on her podcast to sign up for her free webinar. People would join the webinar and she wouldn't have to jump through hoops to sell them. She'd deliver the webinar and at the end, she'd make a sale, make an offer to buy, open her cart. She'd do it twice or 3, maybe 4 times and close the cart and she'd get multiple 6 figures each time she did that. And that really broke the frame for me and let me know what was possible. And so it's possible for you as well. And this is how we're going to do it. Starting with the first thing, which is your offers. Now, there are 3 things I want to talk about as it relates to your offers. The first thing is going to be, don't wait until it's perfectly done. Don't wait until it's done and it's perfect, and you're not going to sit until you have all the things worked, all the pieces mapped out. No. Have a idea, build a what do you call a minimum viable product, meaning make it something that's good, something that gets the job done, but doesn't have all the bells and whistles. It's not fully completed. Because if you can provide a solution, go into the market with it. Why am I saying that? Because the market is going to be the one that determines if your course, if your product, if your offer is viable or not you. So put it out as quickly as you can to get the market to feel it, to like it, to love it, to buy it, and to give you feedback to improve it. I've worked with a lot of clients, and some of them have this tendency to want to wait until it's perfect. And what happens is they put their podcast out and they don't get the clients that they want in the time that they wanted because they were spending too much time deliberating. You can cut that out, eliminate it entirely by having a product, putting it out there from your very first episode to begin to get those sales coming in. So that is how your Q1 will actually have sales, because you're actually putting out sales to your audience. Next thing I want to say to you is that many clients, you already know what an offer is. An offer is something that provides a solution to a problem that they have. But many coaches and consultants, and this is honest thing, that, I've gotten all this training. I've spent all these years doing this. I have all these certifications. That is going to be what I talk about on my podcast. And when you do that, you're setting yourself up for failure. Nobody cares about your certifications. Nobody cares about what you know. They only care about themselves and what solution that you can provide to them. Do you understand their problems, their unique problems, in a very in-depth way? And do you have a solution that they can actually see is viable for them? If you can communicate that and let that be at the forefront, then people would begin to think about what qualifies you to talk about this. But lead first with your customer as the forefront, your customer as the lens that you talk about everything through. Nobody cares about your certifications. And the final thing is something that's a lot of people don't grasp, but need to grasp, and that is the relationship between your audience's urgency for a solution and the time it would take for you to deliver that solution. So on one end of the spectrum, you have your potential client, and they may have a burning pain, or may be an insignificant problem. A burning pain may be their neck is bleeding. They have a cut on their neck, it's bleeding. They need a solution. It's hurting them so much. They need a solution right now. Now, your solution could be give them a bandage, give them a painkiller. The time it would take for them to have a relief is going to be instant. And so the value that you're providing is going to be very, very high. As you move away from the center of that, meaning it is you deliver the program, you deliver the solution in a longer time period, or the problem is less urgent for them to solve, an offer at that stage is going to be less valuable. So always think about the pairing between the customer and the urgency that they need a solution, and then how quickly can you deliver that solution. If you offer relationship coaching, which is this nebulous term, you'd be on the outer band here. It might take a year of relationship coaching, just talking through all their issues. And if you're talking to someone or a couple who are maybe they're just going through growing pains, still trying to figure each other out, they don't have an urgent need to solve their problem. Whereas if you're doing divorce rescue, right? If you're doing a divorce rescue for a couple that's going to marriage counseling, failed marriage counseling, and is on the verge of having a divorce, the urgency is there. And how quickly can you rescue that situation? If you can reduce that time, that's the value is going to be that much more increased. So think about that pairing as you go about it. Those three things: the pairing, get the offer out there as quickly as possible, and have a lens of your customer, not just your qualifications and certifications. Now that we know what your offer looks like and what it's going to be and how valuable it's going to be, We need to build a funnel around your offer. Now that you have a podcast is going to be there to warm that relationship, make a relationship deeper and stronger. And so you don't need a complicated funnel on the back end with all these upsells and downsells and all these different steps through and quizzes and all that stuff, right? You literally can move your audience from your podcast directly to a sales page, meaning a VSL, and I'll break all these things down. A sales page with a VSL and a book a call link on that page. Now, why this? Why not additional steps? You could instead do a opt-in page and give someone a freebie and then build a relationship with them via email. But any additional step you add between the person and them making that sale is going to reduce your ability to make the sale. They're going to be less likely to go through all the hoops that you put in front of them. So when you're talking to someone who's listening to a niche podcast, they're already built a relationship with you. You don't need to jump through additional hoops to get them to buy. So provide them with an option to buy with a VSL and an offer to get on a call with you or make a purchase. I mean, break down some of these things real quickly here. Now, a VSL is a video sales letter. It is a short video, not more than 20 minutes long, where you're answering the question. It's that the question someone might be asking you is, just tell me what it is that you're offering, how it can help me, how quickly can it help me, and what do I need to do next, all right? So your VSL is literally just going into specifically what your offer is, what's a breakdown of it, what's involved in it. It's going specifically into you explaining your problem back to them in a way that shows them that you understand it in an in-depth way and you can solve the problem. You're building confidence in that person that you can solve the problem and you want them to then go and book a call with you to have a conversation to become a client or not, if it's a fit for them. Right. So I recommend you go down that route. And, we're talking about multiple six figures in 2025. So use your first quarter of 2025 to just drive someone directly from your podcast to that sales page and see how well that does. We can add on multiple things in the future. We can add on more case studies and testimonials and screenshots on that page if we need to. We can add on an opt-in before if you're getting too many unqualified leads. You could do a webinar or any other thing. But for now, build your offer, put it out there, keep it simple, keep the funnel simple. Just drive someone from the podcast to that sales page, have them get on a call with you, and then you close them on that call. Now, again, for that phone call, remember that these people have high intent because they found your podcast and they're listening to your podcast, and it's a niche podcast. And they've been listening for a while, so they're very warm. They are at a point where, and then they've actually made a decision to then go to your page to watch the video, to then book a call with you. Very high intent all along the way. So you don't have to go through the additional difficulty of trying to convince someone. When they get on a call with you, you are there to provide a solution, to answer their questions, to assure them that you can solve their problem, and to present your offer to them and ask them, and text them. You ask them, you find out from them if they have what it takes to become a client of yours. And then you give them an opportunity to buy on that call. That is the power of a podcast right now. Okay. So have your offer, have your funnel. We're going to talk about copywriting. Copywriting is the things that you say to influence somebody to make a decision. Now, that can be your podcast title itself. What is the title of your podcast itself? Because it has to be something that is interesting enough that people know who it's for and knows what it's about. Think about Get Pregnant Naturally. That podcast tells you exactly what it's about and who it's for. People trying to get pregnant naturally, right? So how can you write the copy of your podcast title in a way that it instantly calls up what it's about and who it's for? Then we're talking about your episode titles. For each episode that you put out there, it has to be a nuclear bomb level of a title because it's going to go out there and cut through all the noise, all the BS to reach the people it's supposed to reach. So again, the same advice as you do the podcast title. Then you want to talk about what is the one line that you're going to be using on your podcast apps and your YouTube descriptions to get people to make the decision to click the link to go to your video sales page. You only have that one line of real estate above the fold on your podcast apps and on YouTube descriptions to make a case for somebody. You can look at down in the description for mine and see what I use. But think about what is that one line that's very direct, very targeted, and also very convincing, very influential to get people to get the click. So you're not trying to get people to make the sale from that line. You just want to influence somebody to take the next step. And that applies to the last thing here on copywriting, which is the ad. On your audio podcast, you really have about 15 to 30 to 45 seconds to you put an ad in the middle of your podcast to convince them to make a decision to take the next step to click the link over to your video sales letter. And for brand new podcasts, you have less time. So you can only have about 15 to 30 seconds because if your podcast is too young, people don't trust it enough, or you haven't earned enough trust to go to and put in a 45-second ad. It's going to really turn people off and tune people out. So keep it to less than 30 seconds. How can you deliver valuable advice or valuable instruction, influential instruction to get people to the next step to go to your video sales letter? And that would round out copywriting. So you have your offer, it's valuable. You build your funnel, and it's very simple and direct, and also gives people all the information they need. And you also have the copywriting. You have your ad ready to put in your podcast. You have your one line ready to put in your descriptions and your descriptions on YouTube and your podcast app. And you have your podcast title ready to go for your podcast when you launch it. And your episode titles really work through and really, really good. Let's move on to the next step. And your next step is your podcast concept. Now, we already know that your podcast is going to be about your expertise and your qualifications, what you know. But that is just one of the 4 aspects of a great podcast concept. And the more of those you have, the stronger your podcast is going to be. Stronger in terms of audience growth, in terms of virality, in terms of momentum. There are a sea of mediocre podcasts, and these 4 allow you to rise above all of them. So I already spoke about one, which is your qualifications as a host. You know what you're talking about. The other thing you need to have is insider access. What insight do you have into your topic of choice, right? Meaning, what have you seen as an insider? Maybe you've worked within the medical field and you have seen all these different mistakes people are making. Maybe you worked within companies as a business coach, and so you've seen billion-dollar companies rise and fall. You've seen companies fail to get out and actually achieve product market fit. What is the insights that you have as a host? 3 is, what is the subset within the subset of an audience that you have unique access that you're talking to? So when you think about couples, married couples, or is this a same-sex couple that you're talking to? Is it a couple that is on the verge of having a child? Is it a couple on the verge of divorce? Is it a couple of empty nesters who are thinking about how to rekindle their relationship after their kids have left? What is that unique subset of an audience that you can speak to? And finally, what is the show format? Now, this is something that is extremely difficult to do and something that is going to take a lot of time to figure out. So it goes counter to my philosophy of keeping things simple. But if you can adopt a very unique format for your show, think about like Hot Ones or like Drink Champs or these other unique formats where they're ramping up the stakes or something exciting is going on, and just apart from just the interview, each new unique format you introduce is going to increase your ability to go viral on these apps like social media. But for now, if you can keep it simple, focus on the other 3 out of the 4 and leave this one until you can really have the time and bandwidth to figure it out. Now, after we have the concept and we're ready to go, ready to jump into the podcast, right? It's time to create our content. And as you create your content, there are 4 types of content that you need to be creating, or you need to have 4 archetypes that your podcast is embodying as you create these types of content. Now, the first archetype we have covered, which is authority, meaning you're going to be talking about what you know. You're going to be talking about what you've experienced. You are the authority on your podcast, and you're representing yourself as the authority by having those direct episodes where you're just talking directly to the audience about their problems and the solutions that you can provide. The other 3 types are going to be interviews. Now, you need to also be a curator, meaning you're bringing them interviews with guests who can provide additional insight that they may not be thinking about. For example, Get Pregnant Naturally is talking to women about fertility, but you may have a guest on the show who talks about male infertility, who talks about erectile dysfunction, for example. That interview is a curator archetype interview. It's providing additional support that they may not even know that they needed. The next type is going to be the light bringer type of content. And that is, you're talking to people who are living the dream life of the clients that you want to serve. They have solved that problem, they're living their life, and they're providing insight into what that looks like and what was their journey to get there. In a lot of ways, light bringers can be curators, so you may have that overlap there. But think about having a light bringer who can bring that future pacing to your potential client and let them know that you have access to the information of what's possible for them if they go through the solution that you provide and are living their best life. The next type of interview that you want to do is you want to do the founder type of interview, meaning you're talking to your clients, your current and past clients, and you're showcasing your work through them. You're putting out what you were able to do for them, where they started out, and what they got to, what success that they've had with your help. And so that way, you're showing the direct connection between you and what you know and an actual implementation of what you know with an actual client of yours who has gotten help or is currently getting help from you. So you need to show that you're a founder. You need to show that you're an authority. You need to show that you are a curator. You need to show that you are a light bringer. Have those 4 archetypes on your show. So now that we have all your content created and you're putting in all those copyrighted titles, you're putting in all the descriptions, the one line that's going to convince people to move over to become clients of yours by going to your BSL funnel, by seeing the offer which you've created. We're now going to go into metrics and attribution, because there are ways that you can use things like Google Analytics to see which one of your videos is bringing the most potential clients to your page, right? So when you have your funnel set up and you're driving traffic to it through YouTube and through your podcast player and all those other things, then you can now see, by using something called UTM parameters, you can now see what video is sending the most traffic to your website. And I'm going to show you exactly how we do that here. So you can see, for example, how we did it here for my videos on this channel. I'm showing you here in Google Analytics using this type of report. You can see all the traffic that's coming from my Instagram, that's coming from my Twitter, my LinkedIn, my YouTube, and specifically what YouTube videos is driving the traffic to my VSL page there. Okay, perfect. Now, once you have that attribution and those metrics down, you can then also now look at your YouTube analytics and you can see how your videos are performing. You want to be thinking about your click-through rates and you want to be thinking about your average view duration, meaning how long do people spend watching your episodes? And your click-through rate is how much do people click to watch your videos after they see it on their browser page, on their For You pages or their channel pages. No, your numbers may be low. I don't know what numbers will look like, but you have an endless amount of opportunities to increase those numbers over time. Like I have had videos that have gone cold for 6 months, and then all of a sudden they get picked up by YouTube algorithm and they're the best performing videos on my client's entire channel. So don't give up on any video, but still make your content, put it out there, focus on the next one. Study your analytics, see how well that did, maybe change some things and try and keep trying, but never get stuck on any one video. Keep moving forward. It literally only takes one video to pop for every other video to get a ton of views and for your business to blow up virtually overnight. And that is what we're aiming for. So we're going to get that with the consistency of posting these videos week by week over time, optimizing every single thumbnail that we can over time as well. All right. So now that we've gone through all your metrics to look out for, you've created all of your content, your solo episodes and your interviews, they're going up on your podcast players, they're going up on your YouTube, and you have your concept nailed down. It's 3 out of 4 at least, and it's really working well for you to gain the momentum. The copywriting is on point, and so people are now clicking through on a regular basis to go over to your funnel to see the offer that you have created. We now need to repurpose that content by using our short form. Okay. Now that you have all of that done, it's time to repurpose your content and create short form content. Short form content is going to be the thing that you're going to create as these soldiers that's going to go out onto all these short form platforms like YouTube Shorts, like LinkedIn Shorts. LinkedIn Shorts is a thing now. Like Instagram Reels, like TikTok. It's going to go out there and get massive amounts of attention for your show. Each individual one of these clips has an opportunity to go viral and start many conversations for you and drive lots of traffic to your podcast and to your link in bio, which is where you have your link tied to drive people to that VSL sales page, right? To optimize your short form content, you want to think about the hook. You're entering people directly into the conversation and you're giving them real meat in that clip. That 60 seconds that you have, give them real solid meat here. You're not just giving them FOMO and trying to force them to click, because guess what? They won't do it. Give them a click that's self-contained that you can watch and say, I actually got value here. And then they'll either watch it again or go through and become a follower of yours, or leave a comment if you have mailing chat set up. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let's finish this. So have a good hook that enters them into the conversation itself. Or you can look at this video that we have here that did 300,000 views. Enter them into the conversation and then provides them with solid meat in that clip, not FOMO. After that, now they will take action, whether it is to follow you or go to your profile and click the link in bio to go to their sales page, or if you have an automation set up in ManyChat, you will then leave a comment down there that says something you wanted to say, and then based on that, you'll slide into their DMs and give them the link to the episode and then begin a conversation with them about their needs and their wants, because as we know, as we said, they're only going to do all these steps because they have high intent. If they have high intent, rewarded intent by giving up an opportunity to work with you,
Talk to them more in the DM. Find out about what their problems are, what they're struggling with, what their needs are, if you can help, and then direct them to your video sales letter or to directly book a call with you. That is the power of using the mini chat automation. So now that you have your short form soldiers working for you, and you have your tracking that's making sure that there's no sale being dropped, you're capturing all the traffic that's coming to your site, you know where it's coming from and who's contributing to what. Now that you know that your content is going out there, it's getting views, it's getting listeners, you're getting a following building up now. Now that you know that your format is on point, your concept is working for you, your copywriting is working for you, people are going to your funnel, they're going to your offer, you're getting your booking calls, you're closing sales. You now need to know to take that to the next step is to begin to be a guest on podcasts. Find podcasts that are equal to yours, of a similar size as you. Find other people who have interests similar to yours who also have podcasts and get on their podcasts. Talk about what you're doing. You're going to borrow all that from their audience and put it onto your audience. And then you're going to really supercharge everything that you're doing. Your guest spots are going to be generating their own short form content. So you go on their platforms and drive people to your stuff as well. It's all going to work really well for you. As you guessed, being a guest on podcast is going to supercharge everything. So go out there, find the websites that's pairing guests with hosts. Go in the groups, talk to people. Go on Instagram, find the people with podcasts. See if you have something in common. Pitch to be on their podcast. Get that going and get that working for you. If you can get on 200 podcasts in 2025, your business is going to grow so much. Your brand is going to grow so much. So aim for that number. And that's it.
We're about to jump into the next guide, but before we do that, scroll down really quickly and hit that like button. It's going to help us a lot. Thank you very much. Now let's keep the value train going. Now that we know what the game plan is to grow and monetize your personal brand with your podcast, let's actually get that thing launched by going through all the technical aspects, from your equipment to setting up your podcast on Spotify and YouTube and everything in between.
Technically speaking, what is a podcast? It used to be just audio, just an MP3 file stored on a server somewhere that people can access with a special URL called an RSS feed. Nowadays, instead of using a server, you can use a podcast host. Spotify's one, so is Buzzsprout, Libsyn, Captivate, and this goes on. And all the complication of making that RSS feed is handled by the host. Instead of having to figure out how to turn this RSS feed into your favorite show, it's all abstracted away into a podcast player. Spotify is one again, and so is Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and YouTube now, actually. And of course, it's 2025, video has joined the mix, and so YouTube is now a major player in the podcast space. They can read your RSS feeds, but if you want to create your podcast on YouTube, you'd have to do it with only video. Audio podcasts are still great. There's still a ton of popular audio-only podcasts out there. Word of mouth is the major way that podcasts grow. And even though we have video, that has not changed. But the ability to make people aware of your show much faster than ever before is the reason why you need to be doing video for your podcast as well as audio, especially if you're trying to attract and convert new listeners into clients. Now that we've identified why you start your podcast and what a podcast really is, let's dive into the meat of the matter and look at how we actually make the podcast the right way. This process can be complicated if you allow it to be, but I'm going to give you the tools and the psychology to move through this process as quickly and smoothly as possible. If you have any questions I didn't address, leave them down in the comments below and I'll answer them. So the first thing we're going to do is everybody's favorite thing, securing the right equipment. Before people can hear your personality and feel your vibes, they have to be able to hear and see you. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine that there are two podcasts talking about the same exact thing. Now, one has great audio, great video, and the other one has terrible audio and terrible video. It doesn't matter if you have the best personality in the world. If you are the one with terrible audio and terrible video, you're not going to get your podcast off the ground. Let's make audio and video quality be the foundation which you'll build your podcast empire upon. First things first is a microphone. You want to avoid condenser and omnidirectional microphones. Those are great if you're in a studio where audio quality is perfectly pristine, but if you're at home, you don't have a home studio, then you want to use a unidirectional mic or a dynamic microphone at all times. Now, how that works is it picks up the best audio when you're speaking directly in front of it. So if you're behind it, if you're somewhere else in the room, it will not pick up that audio as much as what's in front. It's going to prioritize what's being said right here. The top of the line microphone is going to be the Shure SM7B. You see that on so many podcasts right now, and that is for a reason. They're excellent quality microphones, but they are still great microphones for a lower price point. I'll put all of information down below in the description. If you have a co-host right beside you, and you're not going after remote interviews, you also want to get them a microphone, and then you have to use something like a interface that you plug both microphones into, and you can record the conversation you guys are having. Now, one that we have, and we recommend, it is the Rodecaster Pro. There you can plug in up to 4 microphones if you have 4 guests, but we're going for a very simple setup, so definitely have one microphone, and you're most likely going to be doing remote interviews. If you're watching this video and you are a business owner or a coach trying to build up your authority and talk to your audience, you're going to want to prioritize having remote interviews, and I'll tell you why. Check that input. That is called an XLR, a micro XLR input. If you want to have something like that, you're going to also want to get an interface which you can plug it into, and that will power this device. If not, go for a dynamic microphone which you can plug directly into your computer by USB-C. The next thing is going to be headphones. You want to have a headphone so you can hear the guest speaking without it coming out of the speakers and you accidentally picking it up in the microphone. The one I recommend is there, the Sony. It does a very good job. We use it for our editing as well. It really picks up all the nuances of the audio. If you don't want to get an expensive pair of headphones, you can use AirPods. Cameras. Next thing we're going to talk about are cameras. Camera quality is important, yes, but we don't overcomplicate it. There are lots of podcasts that we work with who have webcams. 4K webcams get the job done. 4K webcams pass the bar of the minimum requirements to have good video quality. There are some webcams that we recommend. There's one that is getting excellent reviews and the camera quality is looking much more superb than any other webcam on the market. It's this one right here, so definitely check that out. If you want to take your video game up another notch, you can opt for a DSLR camera like what I'm using right now. And this DSLR camera is the Sony FX30. It records in 4K on the device. If you plug it into your computer via USB-C, you can record up to 1080p, which is excellent quality for your calls with your guests. But if you're going to be recording solo episodes, that's you talking directly to the audience like we are right now, just record it directly onto the camera and you recorded excellent 4K quality. There are settings that you need to consider with any DSLR camera, so you can just pick one up and begin working with it. So for a setup of this size, the camera and the lens can easily bring you up to $3,000. So be very mindful of that. In most cases, for most purposes, going for a webcam is more than enough in terms of video quality to get the job done and get you clients on demand. Once you feel like, okay, I want to take it up a notch, then you have the revenue to invest in your production, definitely opt for a DSLR camera. The Sony ZV-E10 is also good, lower quality and lower capabilities than this FX30. And then a step up from the FX30 is the FX3, which is going to run you 3K, almost 4K for that camera alone, not including the lens. As you can tell, I'm only speaking about recording remotely. So you as a host talking to a remote guest or here by yourself with the camera. That's because for most coaches and consultants, that is the setup they're going to go for because, they're busy. They have meetings, they have clients they want to deliver to. They want something that's very simple to set up and get going. We don't have time to have studios. That is for the future. If you want me to talk about that in more detail, multiple cameras, all that stuff, building a set, I can go into that in a future video. But for now, we're talking about remote recording for podcasts via recording software. The next thing is lighting. A simple desk light can do if you're just keeping it very simple, or you can recommend one. Being able to just get up and start recording is very important for a coach or consultant because you never know when either inspiration is going to strike or when you're going to actually have the time to sit down and record. And so lighting is going to play a very big part in that. You're going to want a light that actually gets the job done and makes you look consistent, whether it's night or day. You can probably tell it's night. I'm using a step-down version of lighting. I'm using the GVM 3-pack RGB light. You want to get at least 2-point lighting system. Put one light 45 degrees away from your face. That's your fill light. Another light could just be there to fill in the shadows, and you can then determine what angle you want it, just to fill in some of those shadows. Actually, let me show you what it looks like. I'm going to turn the lights off now, and you can get to see how it works. And I'm going to turn them on one by one, starting with my key light. Okay, my key light is on. You can see now there's also shadow on this side of my face. I'm going to now turn on the fill light. Okay, and you can see some time to fill in some of those shadows here in my face, even more even, not like brooding like the Dark Knight. And finally, I'm going to turn on the backlight. You can see the light on this side, and it's creating some separation there from the backdrop. And that's 3-point lighting. You all need to have these two really to have very good light coverage as you go through. You don't need a complicated setup. You can just have one simple desk light here that's bright enough to illuminate you and give you a little shadow space, so there's some depth to your face. Yeah, but that's all you really need. And then you can take that up a notch again by using a more complicated setup, having something like an aperture light here that with a softbox that gives you very good coverage, and also it's bright enough so that it doesn't matter if you're filming in the night or the day, you're going to look the same no matter what. And finally, backdrop. This one's often overlooked, especially for people doing remote interviews or setups like this, because they just don't think it's that much of a priority. They probably just have a blank wall or something, but it's really viable real estate because you get an opportunity to showcase other things about you. You could showcase your qualifications, you could showcase bits of your personality, you could showcase things that are relevant to what you do and who you are. If you look at Gary Vee's backdrop, you could see all the things that he has did at making who he is. And I also like the hosts, Sean Puri and Sam Parr. They're my first million backdrop. Each of them is really unique. Well, you can look at mine as well. You know, I have my One Piece figurines there. I have my anime books there. Also a lot of books that I am reading right now and have read before. And originally there was like my PlayStation 5, but it's down to I'm playing that with my daughter. So yeah, you really have a lot of options, and with how you can display things that like really make you who you are and talk about your personality without you actually saying it. It's just there as a reflection of yourself. So utilize your backdrop as much as you can. It'll become a fixture in your videos. Let's move on to actually recording conversations. I'm talking about the recording platform. Now, the one that we recommend, very simple and straightforward, is Riverside. Since Riverside came on the scene, there have been multiple competitors that have also come up and raised their standard of what they do. But why we like Riverside is you're able to record locally, and that works very well for redundancy, and that works very well for maintaining your video and audio quality, even when you have a spotty internet connection. Like if you're using Zoom, for example, if you have a moment where your internet cuts out, that call is done. Like that video is done. That you're cooked at that point. But if you have something like Riverside, you can be talking, you can drop the information is still being recorded locally on your hard drive. At the end of the conversations, all uploaded to the cloud, and then you have the uninterrupted conversation there. And it also allows you to record up to 4K your conversations as well. So very versatile there. And if you want a code for Riverside, it's down in the description below. You can get a discount there, and just using my affiliate code. I get a little commission off that. Anyways, moving on to setting up your podcast itself, let's briefly talk about all the costs associated with the podcast. Now, I've already spoken about equipment, but it does not stop there. There are one-time payments you need to make, and there are also ongoing subscriptions you need to have. Let's go through them right now. One is going to be your podcast host, meaning the application that's going to be holding on to all of your files, your MP3 files, your MP4 files, and serving them out to the different podcast destinations. The destinations like Apple, Amazon Music, Spotify, Overcast, etc. Those are all free destinations, but you would have to pay for that server, that host. So it's going to be serving the RSS feed up for everyone to access. The prices vary. The one that we use all of the time is Libsyn, but there's also Captivate. And Captivate specifically is one that we are loving because it allows you to run dynamic ads. Dynamic ads are advertisements which you can record a separate audio track, which would be an advertisement, which you can then place dynamically in your back catalog. Now, let's say, for example, you've launched a new promotion and people are still consuming all their episodes, they're binging all their episodes all the way back from when you started it in 2024. you can then dynamically go back and insert that new ad for your new promotion into all of those old episodes so that they don't miss out as they're consuming in the old catalog. And that's actually how we recommend you go about putting in your ads dynamically. You don't want to bake them in, because that means that people listening to an old episode with an old baked in ad will be trying to join that promotion or that offer that you have that maybe doesn't exist anymore, maybe has changed a great deal. So put your ads in dynamically, and you do that by using a host like Captivate. The next thing is going to be your recording software. In the last section I mentioned Riverside. There's a cost associated with that, a monthly subscription to use Riverside. Also, editing software. There is free audio editing software, but there's also paid audio editing software, and there's definitely a lot of paid video editing softwares. One that we recommend is Adobe Premiere Pro. That's what we use internally for our clients, and we recommend Adobe Audition as well. So you can pay for one subscription to the Adobe Creative Cloud, and that will give you access to all the applications that they have there, which includes Adobe Photoshop for making thumbnails, Premiere Pro for editing video, and Audition for editing audio. Music, that's one thing you'd have to pay for as well. You can, and we'll talk about it in the next section, where that's a cost you have to consider. And finally, design services. You may want, if you want to hire a designer to design your artwork, which we talk about in the next section, or use one of the tools like Canva, there's a subscription involved with that. So just be mindful. So we are going to set up our podcast, and what we're going to be using in this example is going to be Spotify. It is free to use Spotify as a host. There are benefits to doing that. Spotify would then become a part owner of your content. So if you don't want that, definitely use one of the paid hosts like Libsyn or Captivate, and that will give you 100% control over your podcast and all that comes with it. So in this case, we're going to use Spotify because it's very quick and simple to set up. And so you're going to want to go to this URL right here, and then you'll see this page on Spotify for creators. You hit get started. You would say you want to start a new podcast, and then you sign up for your own account. I have my own account here, but once you have your own account, you can put your information in about the podcast, meaning the show name, your description, the creator name, your show art, which we'll talk about in the next section, and your categories, whether it's going to be clean or explicit. Okay, you can then create your own profile page and put in all of your additional information for your additional platforms, and this will all show up on your podcast, in the podcast there on Spotify. Once you hit save, you will take into this page here, where you go to episodes, and you'll begin adding your end of your episodes. So we'll get into that real quick. Let's just go back real quick here. You want to nail your podcast name. You want to be as clear as you can about what the podcast is about. So don't try to be clever, try to be clear. If you can identify who it's for and what value you're going to provide, what your qualifications are, put that in the description, and you can use those keywords as well you want when they're searching for to find your podcast. Definitely go for that. As you can see, my podcast name is titled Listens to Clients. It's very clear about what the podcast is about, what we do. So definitely up for that clarity. Don't just go for a name because it sounds fun. I mean, you can if you want. I would encourage you to go for something that's very, very clear. You will thank me in the long run. We've purchased our host, which in this case is going to be Spotify, and we're filling our information in. We're going to pause that, and we're going to start recording our episodes. Maybe you already have your guests lined up, or you're going to do some solo episodes. Let's actually begin the process of now determining how best to record an episode. We want to ensure that we are recording as much clean audio, meaning audio that doesn't have any noise going into the recording process. Because the cleaner the audio is going in, is the less audio processing you have to do after you've recorded the episode. And there's no guarantee that you can solve those audio issues. So the best thing that you can do is to ensure that your audio going in is as clean as possible. And how we do that is, one, use headphones, have your guests use headphones as well. If you can, you also want to make sure that you are plugged in via Ethernet cord to the internet and not using Wi-Fi, because the Wi-Fi can be unstable sometimes, and that will affect your call's quality. Remember that we're on Riverside, so there is a redundancy with recording locally, but try to get on an Ethernet connection if you can. If not, we'll move forward. If you're doing any form of background activity that could interrupt or could drain some of your bandwidth, maybe you're using Google Sync to upload files, or Dropbox or antivirus software, ensure none of those are running when you're doing your recording, so that those aren't siphoning necessary bandwidth for your conversation, so it can be as clean as possible. A lot of times when you're recording in any form of software, you have to double check that your microphone, your specific microphone, what you want to use, is selected, your headphones are selected, your camera is selected before you actually start recording. You don't want to be in the middle of a conversation and realize that the wrong microphone is selected and so the audio is trash. So before you start recording, make sure that the correct microphone is selected as input, correct speakers, which would be your headphones, and the correct camera, not your webcam on your laptop, but maybe the one that you've purchased or your DSLR. Those are ones that are selected. Turn off any fans, or if the AC is too loud, turn it down. If your room light has a hum, which mine does, make sure that your light is off, so you're not getting that in the audio. You're not having any hummings or hissing or any form of latent noise coming in to your space. There's certain things that can't be helped. I'm not telling you to put up studio audio panels or to put down towels. We don't have time for that. And there are things that we can do in post just to ensure our quality as smooth as possible. But do what you can, right? When you're talking to the microphone, make sure it's not up on your mouth like this. It's a little bit further away, about 8 inches away from your mouth. Get a pop filter as well if you do a lot of popping. And once you have all that taken care of, your phone's on side, it's not gonna ring in the call or vibrate, then you can go ahead and begin recording and enjoy that conversation. Now that you've recorded your episodes, let's move on to the next thing you want to do, which is to secure your music. Especially for the audio part of your podcast, music plays a very big role in setting up the mood and atmosphere for your show. And so we definitely recommend that you have music there at the intro of your podcast that brings people into the atmosphere of what your show is going to be about and the vibe of your show. And also you want to have sound effects, whether that be for transitionary sounds. But let's touch on licenses for a second. You want to get music that you can purchase and own the license for in perpetuity, rather than using royalty-based music like what you hear in Spotify from artists. You don't want to take those and use those on your podcast, because that would mean that you're gonna have to pay every single time someone streams your podcast. You don't want that. You want to use a service which you can get the license for music and own that in perpetuity, whether that be for the lifetime or maybe you renew that license every year. But you want to have a service, you want to pay for a service that gives you that level of ownership. One service we recommend for that is Pond5. Use Pond5, go there, identify a vibe and a genre that fits your show, get that and begin to use that in your show's edit. Let's move on now to your podcast artwork. Well, if you looked at Spotify, you would see that your podcast artwork is very important. It is what you use to represent your show in everything on YouTube, on Spotify, the host, and it gets pushed from Spotify to all their devices. So on Apple, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, they'll all be using your artwork to identify your show. And so you're going to want to create something that's a square, that's 3000 by 3000 pixels. Start with that large size, and because different services may want a smaller size, we can always start with that large one and work your way down, and then we begin to populate everything. Now you can use a tool like Canva to design it if you want to do it yourself. I designed my artwork in Canva, and then I moved it into Photoshop to do additional polishing, and you can see the difference and what I think is more refined in Photoshop. You can also use a service like Upwork or Fiverr or 99 Designs or Design Crowd to give you different variations for an artwork, or you can just hire a professional designer to make it for you. I definitely recommend you do something that is quick and cheap to start. You can always upgrade your artwork and refine your artwork in the future as your podcast has gotten more notoriety and traction. But one thing you need to ensure is that, as I have been saying, is to be clear, not clever, clear in what your podcast is going to be about. Since you are a coach or a consultant or business owner, put your face on the artwork somewhere to increase your personal brand awareness. You also can incorporate aspects of your brand colors, your brand fonts, your brand emotions, provide that information to the designers on whichever platform they are on, have them give you 3 variations of what you can use, and then you pick the best one. We're now going to do a few more things, edit our episodes, sign up for YouTube, and then begin to publish those episodes. And that will be the final step, which will get it out into every person's device, YouTube channel, everything. So let's go through now with signing up for YouTube. What you want to do first is to create your YouTube channel and then go to YouTube Studio. So what I've done, I've done that already. And this is now my YouTube Studio. You're going to want to go to create and then go to new podcast. When you go to new podcast, create a new podcast. This is where you take everything you've already been done on Spotify and put it here. So you put your title here, you put your description here, you put your artwork here, ensure the visibility is public, and you can leave it as is, and then go ahead and hit create. And that's it. You now have your podcast and it's public. So what that means is when you go to content and you go to podcast, you'll now see a podcast tab and you'll now see your podcast here. So look at all of my videos. As you add your videos that you've recorded and edited, they will show up here. Everything else that you do for a regular video will be the same, meaning you still need to do a thumbnail, title, and description for your episodes. You can basically take the same descriptions you've done here and apply it to the same thing you do on Spotify as you create a new episode. This is my podcast on YouTube. This is my podcast on Spotify. All this, the same stuff I'm putting on both. So you can do the same there. What that would look like is you create a video. Let's just say I'm uploading a new video. When you upload a new video, you're going to see a screen like this. And all you do is scroll down here to playlists. Add Listens to Clients as a playlist. As you can see here, podcast. It will then make it into a podcast, which will then be available on YouTube Music as well as regular YouTube. So you now have your YouTube channel set up, title, description, artwork already there. Everything is ready for the episodes, or everything is waiting. It's excited to receive your episodes to begin sending it out to the world. Let's move on to editing your episodes. I'm not going to jump into how to edit your videos technically. I am going to say that I'm going to introduce you to some sort of editing jargons that you need to know. So let's jump in real quickly. So the workflow that we recommend, from Riverside, you're going to get 2 audio files and 2 video files. 1 video and 1 audio file for you as a host, 1 video, 1 audio file for the guest. You're going to take all 4 of those files and put them into your video editing software. In this case, we use Adobe Premiere Pro. You can also use Descript or anything else that you feel comfortable with. The video editing is going to be a lot less stringent than your audio editing. That's because people can be more tolerant of audio mistakes. Maybe you say, I'm a bit too much or something happens there. They're going to be more tolerant of it. And especially they're going to be more aware of too many cuts. Whereas you can hide all the cuts in the audio using good audio editing techniques. You can hide a lot of the cuts. It sounds pristine, it sounds perfect. With audio, because you can't see, you can see all the different glitching and cutting and stuff as you do on video. So we're not going to edit our video as much as we would our audio. That's why we start with doing the video edit first. We take the audio from the completed video edit, we put it into our audio editing software, edit it even more, and then we add in our music, add in our intros and our outros, export that finished audio now, and that goes onto all the audio platforms, and then export that video that you have now when you edited, and that goes onto the video platform, that goes onto YouTube. For the most part, to keep it very simple, you're going to be using jump cuts, meaning you're going to be looking for areas where there are. Let me just show you. Can I just show you real quick? Yeah, just real quickly. I'm going to show you how to do a cut in Premiere Pro. So you may have an issue where your guest gets up to leave, or you said, I'm a bit too much times, or there's a tangent that you went down you just want to remove. You want to identify where the start of it is. And you're going to put a cut there, insert cut. There's a cut tool right here. This is Razor. And you can just do that. As you can see there, we now have 2 separate things. There's one here, and then you want to come here and insert other cut. Same thing with the Razor tool, boom. And then you highlight that piece in the middle and you hit delete. Or you highlight it again and do shift delete, and that does a ripple delete. So what we've just created here is a jump cut. If you look at it, you can see how it just jumps from one to the other thing. That's called a jump cut. That's the most basic cut you're going to be doing, and it's going to be very effective for you for a long while. So just be mindful of that. Edit. And then once you have that, take that audio from that completed interview You're going to use that same technique to do jump cuts to edit that audio. Then you're going to export that audio from the audio editing software as an MP3 file. You're going to export the video as an MP4 file. And then you're going to upload now that video file onto YouTube. And you're going to have to now create a thumbnail you create a thumbnail in Canva or Photoshop as you did the artwork. And we can have a whole video about thumbnails. So we won't get into it in this video, but for the purpose of the technical aspects, create a thumbnail that matches your video that is 1280 by 720 in size. Upload that with your video to YouTube. Remember to go down to the playlist section and select the podcast as a playlist, and then hit publish when everything is uploaded and checked and processed to the fullest quality, maximum HD, which would be 1080p. Publish that, and your podcast is now live on YouTube Music. Then you're going to take that audio file and put that MP3 file onto Spotify. And when it's done uploading, you hit publish, and then it's available on Spotify. Now we have a further step to do now to get that not only available on Spotify, but on every single audio platform. And we do that by going to the settings and going to availability. Now what you see here on the RSS distribution, this RSS feed, if you copy, will now go everywhere possible. If you scroll down enough, you're going to see a list of all the destinations. You can click Amazon Music. It's going to give you a link to their portal. You click that portal and you would put your RSS feed in there. Create an account for yourself on Amazon Music, on Apple Podcasts, on iHeartRadio, on Good Pods, on Castbox. And from there, you could just enter your RSS feed there, take ownership of your podcast, and it will begin after 24 hours, 48 hours, sometimes up to 2 weeks. It will then process your podcast and then begin serving that same RSS feed, which you got from Spotify, on all of those channels. Overcast does it automatically. So once your podcast is on Apple, it will be picked up on Overcast, and several other destinations and podcast players are like that. So once the RSS feed is created, it will get served up and picked up automatically by the majority of podcast players. But then there are some exceptions, which are the ones listed here. That is it.
Number 3 is all about ideas. A good idea like the iPhone can change the world, but a bad idea, it just sucks away your momentum and really slows everything down. You need a repeatable way to find great ideas and execute them with a level of certainty that they will grow your business. Let's dive in.
I use this exact secret in my business every single day. Like I did for this video for my client Veronica to blow up her channel and her business. Why are podcast ideas important in the first place? Ideas make or break a show. Execution is important, yes, but if you execute on a poor idea, you're not going to get the results that you want. You're actually going to get negative results. No one's going to care about what you're doing. So ideas are super, super important as it relates to getting someone to find your video and getting someone to care about your content. That's all that matters in the game of turning listeners into clients, having them feel motivated to take the next step to want to work with you. And we'll be diving into how to foolproof your ideas so that you know that you're making the right content that's going to reach the right audience every single time. Starting with this first secret, which is called the kaleidoscope technique. If you're old enough, like me, you remember back in the day when you had this little toy called a kaleidoscope, which is like a cylindrical toy that you would hold up to the sun. And as you turn it, you would see an image of shapes and colors, and that image would begin to change and transform the more you turned it. That is the secret. That is the reason behind the kaleidoscope technique. What we're going to be doing here is to identify what your main topics of your podcast are going to be based on your expertise. And then from there, plug those into a kaleidoscope. And as we use it, we'll come up with different ways and means, different avenues, different prisms with which we can see our topics through. So you can then generate an endless stream of topics. Think about it like this. If you can plug in 4 main high-level topics of your show, you could potentially get a 4x or even a 10x multiple on those topics. So now 4 topics have just become 40 topics. And that literally can be endless. So here's how we do it. You want to start with identifying what is the current state of your client's journey. Where are they in the process of working with you? They've signed a contract. What is their current situation? What are their problems they're going through? what is the core issue. And then you want to know what is their potential outcome. What is the dream outcome they want to achieve? Where is their life going to be? What do they want their life to look like? And then along that path, you're going to plot what is the journey that you take them through your expertise. Now, you may already have that. That is your framework. So what you want to do is to plug your framework into the kaleidoscope technique. Now, along the journey, there are going to be different milestones. And each milestone will represent a new set of activities or a new set of expertise which you would bring to bear to help your client. Let me elucidate this with an example, right? So let's say that you are a sober coach. You help your clients to quit drinking. Now, along the path, they may start out with they currently are drinking and they're seeing the negative repercussions of that in their lives. Their relationships are destroyed. Their family life is non-existent. Their career is on the rocks, or maybe they're high functioning, and they're starting to see now the decline in their career and social lives. They may come to you and they want to work with you. And along the path to get to their outcome, which is they have a happy life, their relationships are doing great, their family life is 100%, they're getting friends, and they have a career now that's very fulfilling, and hobbies that keep them entertained and keep their mind sharp. Along that path, they have to go through a certain set of steps. And each one of these steps would represent different topics. One step could be quitting drinking. Another step could be finding good habits. Another step could be finding a community. And another step could be about growth, meaning using things like health and wellness to propel them into a new mental state. And then, of course, they'll reach that outcome eventually of having all that they ever wanted. Now, what you've created are going to be these 4 topics: quitting drinking, better habits, finding a community, health and wellness. And you can plug each of those now into the kaleidoscope. Now, what the kaleidoscope actually is, I represent my kaleidoscope as a spreadsheet. You might have different ideas for how you want to implement yours. And within that spreadsheet are going to be different content topics or content types. And these are your prisms. Now, one content type might be deep dives, where you're going into the statistics and facts and figures. You're going deep and doing full exploration on a topic. Another content type could be this versus that, where you're comparing 2 things. Another content type could be how-tos. Another content type could be listicles. Here are the 7 things or 5 things or 21 things or 11 things. And you can plug in as many different prisms or content types that you want in your kaleidoscope. And so you put your topics in there, work through the different content types, and output would be multiple episode ideas per content topic. And that's it. Now, you could go forth with that and make your podcast episodes, but that won't guarantee that they will be successful. You need the second secret. And that's going to be taking those podcast titles and leveraging them in YouTube search. Now, YouTube search is powerful for many, many reasons, but the one that we use it for in our agency is to determine the likelihood that our videos will be successful, because there are millions and billions of videos already out there. A lot of them are already ranking and getting tons and tons of views, whether that be currently today or 5 years ago. These topics are still very relevant or still getting views today. And so we can look at those to then give us ideas and inspiration for how we can tailor these podcast topics even more. Now, how that works is we're going to take these podcast episodes one at a time, and we're going to determine what are the keywords here in this topic. Then we're going to plug those keywords into YouTube search and hit search, and then we're going to see all the videos that come up related to this topic. Now, some of the videos and ones that we're going to focus on are the ones that are going to have a very high amount of views and engagement. And what you're going to see, you can make your own little database of this. You're going to see different variations of topics, of titles, and thumbnails. And then you can plug those now into your little bank as you begin to do the pre-work for your individual episodes. And so now you've achieved 2 things. You now have your podcast topics that's related to your direct expertise. And now you already have proof based on the listener or the viewer's perspective that this is something that they value, and the specific iteration of it with the variations of the titles and thumbnails. You have now some amount of certainty with which to go through and to record your episode. You can make thumbnails similar to the inspiration you received and A/B test the different ones and see which one works best for you and works best for your episodes. Now, we can take that even a step further by using the next secret. And the next secret is going to give you even more certainty. And that is going to be Google Trends. You're going to take these podcast topics and put them into Google Trends and compare them to each other. And you can see which one of these keywords is ranking today and how high the search volume is on Google. Because guess what? YouTube is the second largest search engine. Google is the first largest search engine, and your videos will rank in Google as well. So definitely seeing what is trending on Google will increase the chances that your video will get picked up and watched and go crazy in the algorithm. So just going back to the Google idea, there are two things that you want to do here. One, definitely Google Trends is going to tell you about the search volume. It's going to tell you about what keywords or what iteration of the keyword is ranking more than another. Let's say, for example, you're searching for how to quit drinking. How to quit drinking may be ranking less than how to stop drinking or how to give up alcohol, for example. And you can see which one ranks more. And the one that's ranked higher, you could then take and use that in your as a podcast idea and then, create your content around that. The next thing that you want to do is to do the search on Google search itself. And then you would see now there's a section there that gives you different questions. Now, no, we're going beyond ideas at this point. It's just an extra tip. You can see the different questions that are being asked about the given topic. And then you can now take those questions and apply them to your videos because that's what actual human beings are looking for answers to. So then that can go into your videos to make them even better for people who watch it. You can then increase your watch time of the video by answering those questions in there.
Guide number 4 is the fastest path to quickly get out of the starting blocks with your podcast and quickly hit your first 10,000 downloads. And then you can double down on that and continue to ride that wave and do those same steps all the way to a million or millions.
Listen closely because you need to know this. This is a race and you're competing against every other podcast, not just in your niche, but around your niche. And also YouTube videos, not just in your niche, but also every single YouTube video on the platform. And you're competing against Netflix and Instagram and Amazon Music, Amazon Prime, every single thing. You have to be able to cut through and stand out beyond all the competition that's vying for the attention of your ideal listener. But this is a game that you can win. You only need to win once. So bring your A game and let's go. All right, so let me bring up my little script here. So the first thing we need to look at here is to build your instant authority arc. And it's something you need to be thinking about before you launch your podcast, or if you've already launched, before you record your next episode. Once you put out this arc of episodes, you instantly bring authority to you. People will recognize you and begin to trust you. And you also get some sales from this as well. So what is the instant authority arc? This is going to be a few episodes, maybe 3 to 5 episodes, full episodes where it's just you sitting down and delivering real, true value to your audience. So wanting to think about the journey that your clients go through. Where do they start? What strategies do you bring them through? And then what is their end goal? I need to craft episodes that target each of the problems at the different stages. I can give you one example of that. Now, let's say you are a podcast that's dedicated to sobriety, getting people to stop drinking and adopt a practice, develop some habits, and eventually live a very happy and fulfilling life without going into those negative addictions. What you need to do is to do an arc. And the first part of the arc is you need to stop drinking. So we did have one of our clients, and that episode right now is still one of the biggest episodes. It's still the biggest episode on her channel because it's a starting place. And instantly builds authority, pulls people in. The algorithm on YouTube is really pushing that out to everybody and is really growing her sales and her business because she focused on what is that first pillar in her instant authority arc. So it's very powerful. So again, the framework, identify the 3 to 5 steps along the journey that will bring them from start to the end. And deliver each one with very tactical details on each episode. Step 1, quit drinking. Step 2, find some habits. Step 3, find a community. You're giving them really tactical advice on how to do each, how and why. That way you're instantly building your authority and it's going to be one of the most popular episodes of your podcast ever. All right, next thing here is you want to engage with your raving fans. Now, what does that mean? Now, Kevin Kelly has this very popular article, and I'm sure you may have heard about it before, called The 1,000 True Fans. And in it, he says you really only need to have 1,000 true fans in order to live comfortably from your art for the rest of your life. Now, if you have a podcast and you look at your numbers and week to week those numbers are going up or they're not going below a certain number, you already have some true fans there. So the important thing is you need to be able to engage with them, pull them into a very unique experience for them, really pour into them, make them excited. And in turn, they will give you ideas on products and services they want to buy. They will show up at all their events. And most importantly, they will tell all of their friends and family. And that's going to be one of the biggest catalysts and pushes for your growth to that 10,000 number. So what are different ways in which we can engage with them? One unique way is adding an outro to the end of your episode that teases something interesting. Maybe there's a free call that they get if they listen to the entire episode. Or maybe there is a community that they can join where they can have more interaction with you. Something that maybe they can get sneak peeks and early releases of episodes. But put it at the end of the episode so you know that people are going to listen to the entire hour and they listen to that your additional 5 minutes. Are the people who stay all the way through, those are your real true fans. Engage them, give them a unique experience, and they will help you to push your show out to more people. So the next thing, you should be producing these 4 types of episodes. As I said, if you're a business owner, you need to be doing these 4 types of episodes because not only will it build your authority, it will build your awareness as a huge thought leader in your space. It will also warm up, like really heat up your ideal listeners to make them ready to want to buy from you. So these 4 episodes you should be producing are, you should be doing interviews, but not just any type of interview. You're interviewing guests who are the successful version of your ideal client profile. People who have achieved the result which you're helping your clients with and they're living their best life. They're sharing their secrets with how they did it on your show. So your show is becoming the niche for people who are living the life of your ideal clients. They're tuning to hear that from you on your podcast. You and the guests that you curate on your podcast. So that builds up an audience of people who are like, I come to you for this source, your numbers will grow from that. 2, you want to be talking to all of your past clients. This way is kind of like a testimonial, but in this way, you are the one who's in control, who's pulling out all the insights that you want to deliver to your audience. And as you're not just sending the instructions to your clients and saying, give me a testimonial, you know, you're walking them through, taking them by the hand and having them deliver the bits of information that you want to deliver to your ideal clients. So when they hear it, they're like, okay, now I know you are the source for this information. I'll come in and tune into you for more information. And I'll come in and actually click the button or pause my podcast, find your URL, book a call with you. Number 3 is that you want to be talking to guests who have expertise in a similar or adjacent niche to your audience. So for example, me, I deliver podcasting services to business owners. I may want to talk to someone who does ads and runs Facebook ads because that way I can now provide even an expanded amount of service or benefit to my audience. I'm also showing that I have a relationship that I've built with other leaders in the space of businesses that serve their needs. You're building your authority that way. You're also delivering value that way and building your respect and that way as well. And finally, you're having solos or conversations where you are just sitting there delivering value. So just like you're in instant authority arc, you don't want to build a podcast all around interviewing. You also want to show your face on camera, show you have your voice on that microphone, delivering value directly to your audience, whether it's just you, like that's like you and I are talking right now, or you have a coworker or you have a peer who's sitting with you and really you guys are really putting all that value in that conversation. That also is the thing that's really going to heat people up because they're going to hear directly from you that you know what you're talking about and you have the solution to their problems. Okay, move on to the next thing. Don't be clever, be clear. This is something that has destroyed so many podcasts. They just want to be clever all the time, but clever doesn't get you found and clever doesn't get people to stick around and listen to your show. Okay, you want in everything, in your show notes, in your descriptions, in your titles, your podcast artwork, don't try to be clever. People are going to see it and scroll right past it. You have to be very clear with who you're serving, what your podcast is about, what the value is that you're delivering. And you can look at mine. My business, my website is called Listeners to Clients. And my podcast is called Listeners to Clients. So it's very clear about what I do there. The next thing here is search, search, search. You want to be optimizing everything that you do for search, because that is a very powerful avenue. Still in today, you still have, even though you have TikTok is getting more and more popular and all these other platforms, search is still one of the biggest ways in which podcasts and businesses get found. And so if you already have an online presence on a website, that's perfectly fine. You can shore up the amount of content that you're producing by also putting out your content, your podcast on your website and make it SEO optimized so people can find it. As they search for their problems, they're finding your podcast episodes. Not only that, by having SEO specific titles and keywords in your podcast descriptions and podcast titles, so that even on the podcast platforms like Spotify, it's also podcast search optimized. Finally, it's very important that when you're doing your YouTube videos, as you put your podcast up on YouTube, not only are you optimizing your titles and descriptions for search with those keywords, but you're also optimizing the chapters of your podcast episodes. Those chapters will come up also at the top of your search results on Google as well. So definitely optimize for search in everything that you can. All right, moving on to number 6. You want to be able to convert your audience from your other media into podcast listeners. And this is where I see so many podcasters fall short and fall down, because they think they can just take the show notes, put that in a caption or put it in an email, and people are going to care and and convert to the podcast. That's just not the case. You need to be creating a unique experience on every platform that you do. If you're going onto Instagram, adding captions, if you're going into email, adding and writing an email to get people to convert from email readers, these are readers, you want to convert them to listeners or viewers, you have to give them something compelling. Don't just say, here's my podcast, here are the show notes, this is what happened, today's guest is this, we'll talk about this, listen to the episode. No, you want to find out what are the key takeaways that will really move and shake somebody, and do a full write-up, a real copywriting endeavor on what it is, the different takeaways. Each takeaway can be its own email or its own post on Instagram or other social media platforms or LinkedIn, where you're giving them directly, this is the value, deliver it in a very copywriting way, and then get people to convert with a call to action over to take advantage of the full episode on Spotify or YouTube. The next thing here, number 7, is to leverage social media heavily. So this is a part where we shine here at Amazing Gains, but it's something that you need to also consider doing. Now, we've gone through 6 things you need to do here. This 7th thing is going to be heavy, but you asked to get $10,000 as quickly as possible, and this is what you're going to have to adopt and do, right? So you have Instagram, you have LinkedIn, you have Twitter, you have YouTube, all these platforms, right? You want to be creating content for all of those platforms, not just Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You need to be creating video that you can use, take the video to make clips for Instagram and TikTok and YouTube Shorts. You need to be making longer clips, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes clips of the full hour-long podcast. Because think about it, how many podcasts have you checked out because you went through a 5-minute clip that was directly targeted about something that you're interested in? And you're like, if this little 5-minute clip is interesting, I want to hear the whole thing. Also, you can now post your entire podcast video onto Twitter. So you can make threads about individual takeaways, just like I mentioned in the last point. You can also put clips of the episode onto Twitter as well. And also you can put the full episode onto Twitter as well. That way you have so many options, so many ways, so many different content types just for Twitter alone. Same thing applies to LinkedIn. You can't post the video on LinkedIn per se, but you can post clips, vertical, horizontal, and also full threads, full posts about your podcast. Same way you take an email, all those takeaways being fully copyrighted out, you can post those onto LinkedIn as well and grow it there as well. So I can do a whole video just talking about repurposing content, and we can go through all the different ways, all the different platforms. But for now, you need to be thinking about heavily repurposing your content across social media to really get that push back to your podcast for them to become listeners. And when they come to the podcast, that's where all the money is made, because that's where you're building a relationship. They're moving from as just a regular listener to a raving fan, and then clicking your descriptions and buying your products and services. That's what's happening. All right, number 8. Now, this is the right way to get guests to share your podcast. Now, I'm tired of seeing it. I'm tired of seeing people just once they're recorded the podcast and everything, you're going to send this email to their guests to say, here are all the links on Spotify, Apple, here are the clips for you to post or whatever. Just please share with the audience. And then your guest is going to take a look at that, scroll to the email, delete. Why do they do that? Because you didn't spend the time to build that relationship and to have them feel like they are a part of something very big and very special. Too many times I see a podcast become a revolving door of guests and they don't put any emphasis or time into making something, curating something that's really special. Special for the guest and special for the audience. So how do we do that, right? You want to spend some time before the call, before you hit record, just building that relationship, talking to them, find out more about them. You want to save the juicy stuff for the podcast itself, but really spend that time building that relationship. You want to be asking them, what are some things they actually they want to talk about for themselves on the podcast? What are some promotions that they want to deliver on your podcast? And you really want to take a note of that and cue them up, tee them up in the podcast, give them an opportunity to really showcase themselves in the best light possible. You also want to pause during the episode just to ask them how everything is going and they need to make any changes or take a break anywhere. You don't want to do it if you already are in flow, but if you do kind of trail off, as every podcast does, take a break, let there be silence, and really give them a chance to breathe and ask them how they're doing and really build a relationship. And finally, once the episode is done, reassure them, if it went well, reassure them that it went well, that they sound good, that you're going to do the best that you can to have them portrayed in the best light possible. And you're going to also put all their links and everything there and build that relationship with them. So when they go off and you've taken the time to really edit the episode, make it sound great, once they do then get that email, they're going to be like, you know what? I had such a great time on that episode. I'm going to now do all I can to promote it because I did something really special with you as the host of the podcast. Number 9, you want to plan your 8-week pre-launch activities. This is going to be a game changer. Not everyone will be able to do this depending on the size of audience you have. Basically, what you want to do is you want to make a call to action to get people to join you for a unique experience. You're going to be launching your podcast, or if you already have your podcast but it's not growing, you're going to relaunch your podcast and you want people to participate in that relaunch. You want people to raise their hand to sign up to be a part of that relaunch process. And in that relaunch process, you're going to go through and you're going to give them sneak peeks into episodes. You're going to have them give you their opinions on things like new artwork, new website design, new social media graphics. You're going to have them give you insight on maybe your trailer or an episode or even guests that they want to hear on your show. This is you giving them this. So it's like Gary Vee says, jab, 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 right hook. Your right hook is going to be when the podcast goes live, they're going to do 2 things. One, and most important, they're going to rush to Apple, to Spotify, to wherever they listen to podcasts, and they're going to leave a rating and a review, a 5-star rating and a review of the podcast. And 2, they're going to share it with their audiences. You're going to give them special graphics to use or clips to use ahead of time, and then you're going to go on launch day and share it with the world. And that's going to be a really huge push to get new listeners. And people who are going to listen to your podcast are going to see all those ratings and believe, because they will be true, that your podcast is something worth listening to since so many people already care about it. And that's going to be a huge momentum going into your launch or your relaunch. Number 10. I put it all the way at number 10 here. It's important, but not as important as all the others, but I definitely do want you to pay attention here. You create great audio. No one wants to hear a podcast or even watch a podcast if the audio is terrible. And it's very simple nowadays to get good audio. Equipment is super cheap. There are tools now. Have a good microphone. There are affordable microphones everywhere. You can look at the link down below to have my equipment list. Get a good microphone. Also, you could use tools like Crisp or post-produced audio as well to get to have it really sounding as best as possible with the right compression and everything like that. And then you can have it edited. Have it edited by a professional editor. Errors and mistakes are reduced to a minimum, and you'll be sounding super, super, super great. And that will not be what holds your podcast back. You don't want audio to hold your podcast back. Okay, we've got to the end now. Finally, the last thing you want to be doing here is to create your thunderclap by getting booked on other podcasts. It's not something I want you to sleep on. You want to be talking about your expertise on other podcasts. But here's a hack. try to get all these podcast guest appearances to be published around the same time you're doing your launch or your relaunch, because that's going to contribute to all the resonance, the resonating thunderclap that you'll be creating around you and your show. It's going to give you a huge boost because of all the calls to action on those podcast guesting slots to your podcast, along with everything from the last two steps about your pre-launch and about social media to get people coming through to your podcast.
If at any point in this video you feel like this is all great, but it's really a lot for me and my team to do on our own, and you want me and my team to help you out, there's an unlisted video in the description I want you to watch next. Number 5, this is the final guide, and it is a huge one. I break down our entire framework on how we engineer our clients' podcast clips to go viral with a real-life case study of how we helped one video go to almost 500,000 views.
Now, why is it important to go viral in the first place? Because it's saying if you shoot for the moon and you miss, you'll hopefully land among the stars. That is the traditional thought process about going viral, thinking that if I go viral, I may get some percentage of people actually becoming my clients, but at the very least, a lot more people will get to know who I am and my brand will grow by that number. Now, that's a great thought, but that's not our philosophy here at Amazing Games. I wouldn't encourage you to think about it like that as well. Our philosophy is we want to speak to the right people. We want to attract the ideal clients, not just put our content to as much people as possible. And so we don't try to go viral. And in this case, in this specific video we made, we didn't make any plans to go viral, and we didn't actually know it would go viral anyway. What we did was we made a video, we made content like we always do with our framework, with the plan to reach our ideal audience, but it has the potential to go viral. Now, when does a video go viral? There are 3 major levels that's applicable across all the platforms that you can use to determine if your video will go viral or not. You can build your content to optimize for those 3 things. So the first thing is shares. And we'll talk more about, and we'll go into all the details about shares. But what basically a share is when someone decides to when someone likes a video so much, they share with someone. It creates a social exponential effect where I might share with you, you might share with someone else, and so you might share with 5 people, and then all the people come back, they might share with other people, and by the time you know it, it's gone over to thousands and thousands of people, and that viral effect is created. Shares is by far the most important metric. It is the exponential builder and the one that we tend to focus on. Like as I said before, we'll dive more into how we do that. The second thing is comments. The comments similarly have a viral effect. It's also a social effect as well. Both shares and comments are extremely social. I might comment on your video and someone else might have a different opinion, or they might have something to say about it, and that can continue as well. I might tag people as well. So it really encourages people to be social. When Instagram sees this, or these platforms see it, they want to put out to more people, so more people can weigh in and give their comments. And there are ways and means in which we create a viral effect using comments, which we talk about. And finally, the third thing that we try to optimize for is saves. Now, saves is less social than the other 2. It's more of a personal type thing, but it's also a great indicator to Instagram or to other platforms that this is content that's valuable to people, that they're saving it for later. But it's one that we don't prioritize more than the other 2. Shares is first, comments in second, and saves is third. So now you know why people want to go viral and what our philosophy is around going viral. And you also now know what levels you can pull to go viral. Let's actually break down now our framework and our blueprint, how we create short form content to go viral, potentially. First, let me give you the overview about how we construct a viral worthy clip. And there are 2 components. There is the hook and there is the main content of the video. That is how we do it. We keep it very simple. Just 2 things, the hook and the main content. Now the hook makes up 65% in our estimation on what contributes a video to go viral, while the remaining 35% is based on the content. Now think about it like this. Think about it like a missile, right? You need to have the rocket component, and you need to have the payload, which is the bomb, the explosion, to have a successful missile strike, right? Now, the missile is responsible for delivering the payload. If the missile is not up to speed, the video won't launch. But if the payload is not up to speed, is not good enough, the video won't explode. And so you need to have both working in tandem. Now let's break down a little bit more about the hook. The hook is going to be the first 3 to 5 seconds of the video. And it's the thing that we over optimize on, because like I said, if you don't have a good hook, the video won't be delivered. People will scroll right past because there's nothing there to capture the attention. There's nothing there delivering the rest of the message to the people. And so we definitely overemphasize on the hook on the first 3 to 5 seconds. It's very difficult to go through an entire podcast episode and find good hooks because people don't often speak in hooks, but there are ways and means that we edit the video to ensure that the hook is delivered. And how we do that is we ensure that for the hook, we're saying what we need to say in the least amount of words possible. Now, let's take a look at the video that we did here that got almost 500,000 views, and let's break down the hook.
Here's the thing. Vitamin D is not a vitamin. It's a hormone. It has a huge...
All right, so do you hear that? Now, so you said vitamin D. Here's the thing. So first of all, we're capturing your attention there. What am I going to expect next? Vitamin D is not a vitamin. It's a hormone. That line delivered right there, that is the missile being delivered. That's going to stop people from scrolling and get them to say, what in the world is she talking about? That is one of the strongest hooks ever. And so here's our secret for how we think about hooks. We want to give people an angle that they may have never heard before in a way they've never heard it before or don't expect. So just right there, you can tell based on that description exactly what we did about here with that first line. So like I said, you're going to go through, if you have an hour-long episode, you're going to go through the entire episode and you'll be listening for what is someone saying. And it may be rough. Like in this video, you can see, you may be able to see the cuts there, but she said that line over a lot of different words, but we were able to cut it down to deliver the essence of that hook. So other people go on the route of overdubbing by using AI to deliver the hook there, but we found this works effectively for us. It's very simple, very straightforward. So we do that instead of going through all the complexities of training AI and all that stuff. It's possible for the future, but we don't do that right now. And as you can see, it's very effective. So yeah, you want to listen through and find those rough pieces of what people are saying to say, okay, this could be a hook. This could be, I'm making a note of that. And after that, you just extract all of those pieces. Do you have the hook? And once you have the hook, you can figure out the remaining pieces. Now, let's go into the other part, the 35% of the video, which is the payload, the rest of the content. A lot of variables go into this, right? That is the length of the entire video. If it's too long, people are going to drop off. If you take a very long time to deliver that payload, it's going to be, people are going to drop off. If you can deliver a 90-second clip in 40 seconds, that's going to be better than trying to drag out the whole 90 seconds. So to really think about being very judicious about every single word that you have in the main content, because the longer the clip takes to deliver that payload, to deliver all the main content, is the weaker your clip is going to be. So that's one thing, length. You also want to think about completeness of the clip. FOMO, fear of missing out, is dead. We don't try to make clips, at least in our agency, we don't try to make clips based on getting people to, oh, I have to hear more. They're cutting off the clips that people are like, oh, what is this? We used to do that. We realize now, after thousands of clips that we put out, that is not as effective anymore. You want to create content for the people on the platform with the expectation that none of them are going to click off and watch your video or subscribe to your newsletter or anything like that. So don't try to include FOMO in any way, shape, or form, and we don't. So if you can just watch, now, the rest of this clip, we'll see exactly what we did here.
Has a huge effect on your immune system, whether you're going to get cancer or not, whether you're going to get an autoimmune disease or not, is dependent on your vitamin D status, how much time you spend in the sun, or whether you take a pill or not.
And so when you think about like the most common client in your practice, would you say there are like 3 things they could start doing right now?
Take vitamin D3. So simple, so cheap, so easy.
If you listen to that, you will realize that it was a complete clip, right? So she mentioned the problem, She mentioned how bad the problem could be. And this is a part of our framework, problem, agitate, solution. And in the end, she delivered a solution. And she said the solution was very simple, very easy, very direct. Now, I could go back and I could look at it, but I can guarantee you that clip was probably taken from about 20 minutes or so of them just having this conversation. And of course, there's a lot that went on in this conversation. There are lots of tangents that were being taken. There are lots of different avenues that went down. So we really had to edit this clip to find out where the start is, trim off out of the part as we can in the middle, and then find a tail end, find something in the clip, which was like 20 minutes down from where we started, find something that really ties everything together. And so we put that cap at the end about the solution, about the vitamin, take vitamin D3, so simple, so easy. We put that at the end there. That's how we're able to craft a very complete clip. Just to tie the thing back in, I did mention shares. The way that we make our clips, the complete clips with the problem, agitate, solution, that is what contributes to the shareability of it. One, the alarming nature of the hook combined with agitating the problem and giving a very succinct solution at the end. That is how, when we package that together, that's what people watch. If you scroll through this, look at all these videos that get a lot of shares, that is the framework that they have behind that as well. So we just basically replicate a framework internally for our clients and for what we do for our clients' clips as well.
If you made to the end of this video, congratulations. You probably have pages of notes and a ton of value already ready to execute on. If you did, good luck with that. I wish you all the best. You can stay tuned for more content and more value. If you do want help though, link in the description for a video I want you to watch next, which will give you all the information about that. All right, stay tuned for more value. See you in the next one. Or you could watch this one next. This one, here, not sure. Watch this one next.